Welcome back to Pocket Change Coins, where every coin could be a hidden treasure. First, we're revealing coins that might be worth a fortune right under your nose. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our hunt for rare and valuable finds. Let's dive in. We're diving into the fascinating world of a coin that might be hiding in your collection or even in your pocket right now, the 1961 United States 1-cent coin. It might seem like just another penny, but trust me, this seemingly ordinary piece of copper has some serious hidden value. So stick around as we take a closer look at why this particular penny is so special and what makes it worth a small fortune. The year 1961 was an exciting time in the United States. John F. Kennedy was in the White House, the space race was heating up, and the country was still buzzing from the early days of rock and roll. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint was busy producing millions of pennies, including the 1961 D variety, which was minted at the Denver Mint. Little did anyone know at the time, this particular penny would go on to become a prized treasure in the world of numismatics. The design of the 1961 penny is familiar to most of us, the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, with the phrase, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty" above him. On the reverse, you'll find the classic Lincoln Memorial, surrounded by the words, "United States of America," and "E Pluribus Unum." The design was created by Victor David Brenner and has been a hallmark of the penny since it was first introduced in 1909. But what makes the 1961 D penny stand out in particular? Well, it's all about the mint mark, the D stamped below the date, indicating it was produced at the Denver Mint. It's not just the mint mark, though. What sets the 1961 D penny apart from other years is its rarity and condition. For starters, the 1961 D penny was minted in large quantities, over 1 billion of them were produced. However, most of these pennies were circulated extensively, and as a result, many of them were worn down and damaged over time. As with any coin, the condition is a major factor in determining its value. While most 1961 D pennies are common and worth just a few cents, those that are well preserved in mint state or uncirculated condition are the real treasures. But there's another key factor that makes the 1961 D penny truly special: varieties and mint errors. These types of mistakes happen during the minting process and can create coins with subtle differences that make them much more valuable to collectors. Some of the 1961 D pennies were struck with doubled dies, an error where the coin was struck twice, creating a blurry, doubled image on certain parts of the coin. This can happen to the date, the lettering, or even the portrait of Lincoln himself. These double die errors are incredibly sought after by collectors, as they are rare and one-of-a-kind. That if you happen to come across a 1961 D penny with a double die or any other type of mint error, you could be holding a piece of history that is worth much more than its face value. Some error coins can sell for hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars, depending on the rarity and condition. And if you have a 1961 D penny with a particularly dramatic error, you could be looking at a huge payday. One of the most notable examples of a 1961 D penny error was a double die obverse, where the date and the word "Liberty" were clearly doubled. This rare error was discovered by sharp-eyed collectors, and when one of these coins appeared on the auction block, it fetched a staggering price. Coins with such mint errors are incredibly rare, and the value can skyrocket as collectors clamor to get their hands on them. Now, let's talk numbers. So far, we've learned that the 1961 D penny can be worth significantly more than just 1 cent, especially if it's in great condition or has an error. A mint state 1961 D penny without any major wear could fetch a good amount, but when you factor in error coins, things start to get really exciting. A 1961 D penny with a major double die error in top condition has been known to sell for up to $99,000. Yes, you heard that right, $99,000 for a single penny. It's hard to believe, but that's the kind of value that can be hidden in a coin that many people might overlook. So, what does this mean for you? Well, if you have any 1961 D pennies lying around, it's definitely worth taking a second look at them. Check the mint mark, inspect the condition, and keep an eye out for any errors. You could be holding a rare and valuable coin that could change your life. To sum it up, the 1961 VDB Penny is far more than just pocket change. Whether it's the rarity of its minting, the potential for mint errors, or simply the condition of the coin, this penny could be worth a serious amount of money. If you happen to have one in your collection or find one in your change, you could be holding a treasure worth up to $99,000. Second rare coin, we're diving into a true gem of American numismatics, the 1967 United States 1-cent coin. While most people think of pennies as just small change, today's coin could be worth much more than you might imagine. If you think a penny is just a penny, stick around, because we're about to show you how this 1967 penny could be worth a small fortune. The year 1967 was an exciting one for the United States. The country was in the midst of the space race, and the nation was captivated by the Apollo space missions. The civil rights movement was gaining momentum, and American culture was experiencing major shifts in music, politics, and social norms. But while the world was changing, the U.S. Mint was quietly producing millions of pennies, including the 1967 1-cent coin. At first glance, the 1967 penny might seem like just another ordinary coin, featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. This design has been in use since 1909, and it's one of the most iconic coin designs in American history. However, there's much more to this penny than meets the eye, especially when you consider the historical context and the key factors that contribute to its value. The 1967 penny was minted in large quantities, which means that most of them have been in circulation for decades. Over time, these coins have been passed from hand to hand, accumulating wear and tear. As a result, most of the 1967 pennies you come across will likely be in poor condition, making them worth only their face value of 1 cent. But here's where things get interesting: collectors are always on the lookout for coins that are well preserved, especially those that have been kept in mint condition. Coins that have been kept in excellent shape, either because they were never circulated or because they were carefully stored, are worth far more than those that have seen heavy use. So, if you happen to find a 1967 penny that's in pristine condition, one that's free of scratches, discoloration, or other signs of wear, you may be holding on to a real treasure. But the real excitement surrounding the 1967 penny lies in the mint errors. Minting errors happen when something goes wrong during the production process, creating a coin with unique characteristics. These errors can range from slight misalignments to more dramatic mistakes like double strikes, off-center strikes, or incorrect stamping. For collectors, mint errors are the holy grail. Why? Because they create one-of-a-kind pieces that are rare, valuable, and highly sought after. If you're lucky enough to find a 1967 penny with a mint error, you could be holding a coin worth much more than its face value. For example, a double die error, where the image on the coin appears doubled, can dramatically increase the coin's value. These types of errors are often subtle, but when they are noticeable, they catch the attention of serious collectors who are willing to pay top dollar for them. Even small errors can make a coin incredibly valuable. For example, a clipped planchet, where part of the penny is missing due to a flaw in the metal blank before it struck, can be worth far more than a regular penny. These mint errors are rare, and finding one in your collection can be a game changer. Now, let's talk numbers. You may be wondering, how much could a 1967 penny be worth? The value of a 1967 penny can vary depending on its condition, rarity, and any potential errors it may have. Most of these pennies in average condition are worth just a few cents. However, a high-grade, uncirculated 1967 penny can fetch a good price, especially if it has a rare mint error. And here's the best part: a mint state 1967 penny with an error could be worth a staggering $81,000. Yes, you read that right, $81,000 for a single penny. This is the kind of value that a rare mint error on a 1967 penny can bring. Imagine finding a coin that's been sitting in your collection or in your change jar, only to discover it's worth more than a brand new car. It's hard to believe, but that's the power of rare coins in excellent condition or with minting errors. So, how can you tell if your 1967 penny is worth something extraordinary? The key is to closely examine the coin. Check for any signs of doubling on the date, the lettering, or the image of Lincoln. Look for any alignment issues or missing parts of the coin. If you're not sure, it's always a good idea to take your coin to a professional grader or a coin expert who can give you an accurate assessment of its value. In summary, the 1967 penny is far more than just a piece of pocket change. With its potential for mint errors, the rarity of well-preserved specimens, and the possibility of finding something truly unique, this penny can be worth far more than its face value. So, the next time you come across a 1967 penny, take a moment to really examine it. You never know, you could be holding a coin worth up to $81,000. Third expensive coin, we're diving into a true hidden gem of American numismatics, the 1971 United States 1-cent coin. This may seem like just another ordinary penny, but believe me, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. In fact, the 1971 penny could be worth a lot more than its face value, and it might just be sitting in your collection or even in your pocket right now. The 1971 penny comes from an interesting time in U.S. history. The country was in the midst of the Vietnam War, the Apollo space missions had recently made headlines, and pop culture was exploding with new trends in music and fashion. In the world of coinage, the 1971 1-cent coin marked the first year that the U.S. Mint produced pennies from a copper-plated zinc composition instead of pure copper. This change was made due to rising copper prices, and it marked a significant shift in the production of 1-cent coins. Now, let's take a closer look at the design of the 1971 penny. On the obverse side, you'll find the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, which has graced the penny since 1909. The engraving of Lincoln was done by the renowned sculptor Victor David Brenner, and it's been a defining feature of the coin for more than a century. Surrounding Lincoln's image are the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty, and the Year of Minting, 1971." On the reverse side, you'll see the iconic image of the Lincoln Memorial. The memorial is a symbol of the unity and strength of the United States, and it has been featured on the reverse of the penny since 1959. The image of the memorial is beautifully detailed, with the words, "United States of America," and "E Pluribus Unum" displayed around the edges. So, why is the 1971 penny so special? You may be wondering, what makes this coin worth more than just 1 cent? The truth is, it's all about the rarity and the condition of the coin. Although the 1971 penny was minted in large quantities, the key to its value lies in the number of well-preserved examples that exist. Most of the pennies from this year were circulated extensively and, as a result, are worn down and damaged. The more pristine the coin, the higher its potential value. However, the real treasure comes in the form of mint errors. Minting errors occur when something goes wrong during the production of the coin, creating a unique variation that doesn't match the standard design. These errors can take many forms, some are subtle, while others are more noticeable. Common types of errors that collectors look for include double dies, where the image appears doubled or blurry, or off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned. Even slight mistakes can drastically increase the coin's value, as these errors make the coin rare and unique. The 1971 penny has seen its fair share of errors, particularly double die errors, where part of the coin's design appears to be struck twice, resulting in a blurry or doubled image. These errors are particularly prized by collectors because they're so rare and stand out from the typical coins found in circulation. If you happen to have a 1971 penny with a double die error, you could be holding onto a coin worth far more than its 1 cent value. Collectors are constantly on the lookout for coins with minting errors like this, and when one of these error coins hits the market, it often fetches a much higher price than a standard, circulated coin. In fact, some 1971 pennies with significant double die errors or other minting mistakes have sold for astronomical prices, making them a prized possession for coin collectors and investors alike. Now, let's talk numbers. How much could your 1971 penny actually be worth? Well, the value of the coin depends largely on its condition and whether it has any rare mint errors. A well-preserved, uncirculated 1971 penny in near-mint condition could fetch a higher price than a typical circulated penny, but it's really the error coins that hold the most value. If you happen to have a 1971 penny with a rare minting error like a double die, you could be sitting on a coin worth $69,000. Yes, you read that correctly, $69,000 for a single penny. It might sound too good to be true, but the rarity and desirability of these error coins can make them worth far more than their face value. So, if you've been holding onto a collection of old pennies or you come across a 1971 penny in your spare change, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look at the coin. Check the date, inspect the condition, and see if you can spot any mint errors. The best way to check for double die errors is to carefully examine the date and inscriptions. If you see any doubling, especially on the year or the word Liberty, you could have a valuable coin on your hands. If you do find a 1971 penny with an error, it's always a good idea to have it professionally graded by a coin expert. A certified coin grader can assess the condition of the coin and determine if it's worth sending to auction or selling to a collector. Sometimes, these errors can increase the value of the coin dramatically, and you may find that your penny is worth far more than you ever expected. To sum it up, the 1971 1-cent coin is much more than just a simple piece of currency. With its potential for mint errors and the possibility of finding an uncirculated penny in excellent condition, this coin is definitely one to keep an eye on. If you happen to find a 1971 penny with a double die error or in pristine condition, you could be holding a coin worth up to $69,000. Especially, we're taking a closer look at a fascinating piece of U.S. history, the 1975 United States 1-cent coin. Most of us are familiar with pennies, but did you know that some of these small coins can actually be worth a fortune? If you thought a penny is just a penny, think again. Stick with me as we dive deep into the history, rarity, and value of the 1975 penny, and you might just discover that this humble coin is far more valuable than you ever imagined. The year 1975 was an exciting one in America. The country was in the midst of post-Vietnam recovery, the nation was celebrating the U.S. bicentennial, and there was a renewed sense of pride in American culture. The penny you see today, minted in 1975, comes from a unique point in history. But what really makes this penny stand out from the rest is the combination of its age, its historical significance, and, believe it or not, the potential value it can hold. When we think of the 1975 penny, the first thing that stands out is its design. On the obverse, we have Abraham Lincoln, of course, whose image has been the face of the U.S. penny since 1909. This iconic portrait, designed by Victor David Brenner, continues to be one of the most recognizable coin designs in the world. But it's the reverse of the coin that's especially interesting. The reverse side of the 1975 penny still features the Lincoln Memorial, a design that has been in use since 1959. This structure is not only a symbol of the nation's unity, but it's also an important reminder of the country's history and values. The depiction of the memorial is one of the most detailed and beautiful images ever placed on U.S. coins, with intricate engravings of columns and the statue of Lincoln seated within. But beyond the design, there's more to this coin than just good looks. Most people don't realize that the 1975 penny was produced during a time when there was significant transition in the world of coinage. Although the penny itself hadn't changed much in terms of design, the composition of the coin had. In 1975, the United States was still using a copper-based alloy for its pennies, though the country would later switch to a copper-plated zinc composition a few years after. As a result, the 1975 pennies, made from a blend of copper and zinc, have a unique composition that adds to their historical value. Now, let's get to the heart of the matter. Why is the 1975 penny worth so much more than just its face value of 1 cent? The truth is, there's a lot of intrigue around this coin, mainly because of the rarity of certain versions of it and the potential mint errors that could significantly increase its value. Like all coins, most 1975 pennies were circulated and have experienced the wear and tear of everyday transactions. However, as collectors, we know that coins in mint condition, those that have been preserved without damage or heavy wear, are worth far more than their face value. The 1975 penny is no exception. If you happen to come across a well-preserved 1975 penny, particularly one that has been carefully stored or never circulated, it could be worth much more than just 1 cent. But here's the real kicker: there are minting errors that can make the 1975 penny incredibly valuable. Minting errors happen when there's a mistake during the production of the coin, creating a unique variation that is different from the standard design. These errors can include off-center strikes, where the image is misaligned, double strikes, where the design is stamped twice, or even die cracks where the metal of the die used to stamp the coin cracks and leaves permanent marks on the coin. If you manage to find a 1975 penny with any of these errors, you could be holding onto a coin worth significantly more than its face value. In fact, some 1975 pennies with double die errors, where part of the design appears doubled, especially on the date or the lettering, have been sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on the severity of the error point. One of the most desirable versions of the 1975 penny is the double die obverse coin, where the doubling is most noticeable on the word Liberty and the date. These rare error coins are highly sought after by collectors, as they are one of a kind, and finding them is no easy feat because of their rarity and appeal. These coins can fetch a pretty penny in the market. So, just how much can a 1975 penny be worth? Well, the value of a 1975 penny depends heavily on its condition and whether it has any rare mint errors. If you happen to find a 1975 penny in uncirculated condition, you could be looking at a value much higher than its face value of 1 cent. But if your coin has a minting error, like a double die obverse, the value can skyrocket. In fact, a 1975 penny with a significant mint error could be worth $60,000. Yes, you heard that right, $60,000 for a single penny. This is the kind of price that a rare 1975 penny with a mint error could fetch at auction or in the collector's market. Imagine holding a coin that has been sitting in your drawer for years, only to discover it's worth more than a luxury car or a down payment on a house. If you come across a 1975 penny, it's definitely worth taking a moment to inspect it closely. Look for any unusual marks, double strikes, or alignment issues. Make sure to check the date and lettering for any signs of doubling. If you suspect your penny has an error, it's always a good idea to have it evaluated by a professional numismatist or coin grader to confirm its value and authenticity. In conclusion, the 1975 U.S. 1-cent coin is far more than just a piece of everyday currency. With its historical significance, unique composition, and potential for minting errors, this coin can hold a value far beyond its face value. So, next time you come across a 1975 penny, take a closer look. It could be worth as much as $60,000, and if you're lucky, even more. Now, we're talking about the United States 1-cent coin from 1980, minted with the distinctive D mint mark for the Denver Mint. If you thought this coin was just another piece of pocket change, you might want to think again. This unassuming penny could be hiding a small fortune, and in this video, we'll show you just why the 1980 D penny is one worth keeping an eye out for. The year 1980 was a significant time in U.S. history. The country was experiencing political and economic shifts, including rising inflation and a rocky relationship with global oil markets. While these events shaped the political landscape, the U.S. Mint was busy producing millions of coins to meet the growing demand for currency. Among those coins was the 1981 cent coin, which was minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver Mints, with the Denver Mint marking its coins with the D mint mark. At first glance, the design of the 1980 penny may seem fairly standard. The obverse side of the coin, as always, features the familiar bust of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln has been the face of the penny since 1909, and his image continues to be one of the most iconic and enduring representations of American history. Surrounding Lincoln's portrait are the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the year, 1980, reminding us of the coin's origins. On the reverse side, you'll find the familiar depiction of the Lincoln Memorial. This design, which has graced the reverse of the penny since 1959, features the beautiful structure on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. The memorial symbolizes the unity of the nation and honors the legacy of Abraham Lincoln. It's a symbol that has deep meaning for Americans, and it remains one of the most detailed and recognizable designs ever featured on U.S. coinage. Now, you might be thinking, what makes the 1980 D penny stand out from all the other pennies produced around the same time? Well, the truth is that while millions of these pennies were produced and circulated, certain conditions and rare varieties can make this coin far more valuable than its face value. What really sets the 1980 D penny apart is its rarity and pristine condition, as well as the possibility of finding coins with mint errors that could increase their value exponentially. In general, most of the 1980 pennies you'll come across today have been heavily circulated. These coins were used in everyday transactions, and like most coins, they've suffered from the wear and tear of being spent, handled, and stored for decades. However, the key to discovering the value of your 1980 penny lies in its condition. The better the condition, the higher the coin's value. If you come across a 1980 penny in mint state, meaning it's free of scratches, marks, and significant wear, it could fetch a price much higher than the typical penny. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The 1980 penny is particularly valuable because it was minted during a time when the U.S. Mint sometimes produced coinage errors. These errors can occur when something goes wrong during the minting process, resulting in a coin that has an unusual or distinctive feature. One of the most sought-after types of errors for collectors is a double die error, where part of the coin's design is struck more than once, creating a blurry or doubled appearance on certain areas, like the date or inscriptions. Another common error that collectors keep an eye out for is an off-center strike, where the image on the coin isn't properly aligned with the rest of the coin. These errors make the coin unique and can significantly increase its value, as they are considered rare and highly collectible. If you happen to find a 1980 penny with any of these minting errors, especially a double die or off-center strike, it could be worth much more than you would expect. The rarity of these error coins, combined with their unique features, makes them highly desirable in the coin market. A coin with a double die error can command thousands of dollars, while an off-center strike can also fetch a premium price, depending on its severity and condition. Let's talk numbers. How much could your 1980 penny be worth? While most circulated pennies from 1980 are worth little more than their face value, the real value comes from the condition and the presence of minting errors. A well-preserved 1980 penny in uncirculated condition could be worth several $100s, but if you're lucky enough to find a coin with a significant mint error, the price can skyrocket. A rare 1980 penny with a double die or other notable minting error has been known to sell for as much as $45,000. That's right, $45,000 for a single penny. It may sound unbelievable, but the rarity of these error coins, combined with the demand from collectors, makes them incredibly valuable. If you've got a 1980 penny lying around, it's definitely worth taking the time to examine it closely. Look for signs of mint errors, such as double strikes, blurry lettering, or misaligned designs. Pay special attention to the date and the word Liberty, as these areas are where double die errors tend to show up. If you spot something unusual, it could be the key to a small fortune. Of course, if you do find an error coin or a penny in outstanding condition, it's a good idea to have it graded by a professional numismatist or coin grader. Grading is the process of assessing a coin's condition and assigning it a value based on its appearance and rarity. A certified coin grader can give you a clearer idea of your coin's worth and whether it's worth sending to auction or selling to a collector. In conclusion, the 1980 US 1-cent coin might seem like just another penny, but it's much more than that. With its potential for rare mint errors and the possibility of finding a pristine example, this coin has become a favorite among collectors. If you happen to find a well-preserved 1980 penny, or better yet, a coin with a minting error, you could be looking at a coin worth as much as $45,000. Last unique coin, we're diving into the world of one of the most fascinating coins to ever come out of the U.S. Mint, the 1984 United States 1-cent coin. You might think of pennies as just small, insignificant pieces of currency, but in the world of collectors, these little coins can sometimes hold much more value than their face value suggests. If you're lucky enough to find a 1984 penny in excellent condition, or even better, one with a rare minting error, you could be holding onto something worth far more than you ever imagined. Now, let's rewind a bit and take a look at the significance of the 1984 penny. The 1980s were a transformative time in American history. The economy was shifting, the tech industry was starting to boom, and the world was seeing the rise of new political and cultural movements. The United States Mint, during this period, was continuing to produce coins for everyday circulation, and among them was the 1984 1-cent coin. Though it might seem like just another penny, there's more to it than meets the eye. On the obverse side of the 1984 penny, you'll find the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, one of the most iconic figures in American history. Designed by Victor David Brenner, Lincoln's likeness has been featured on the penny since 1909. The words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the year, 1984, surround Lincoln's image, serving as a reminder of the nation's history and its enduring values. On the reverse side, we still see the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of the unity and strength of the United States. This design, which was first introduced in 1959, continues to captivate coin collectors and serves as a tribute to the nation's 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. The intricate details of the memorial, with its grand columns and iconic statue of Lincoln, are a reminder of the legacy of one of the most beloved presidents in U.S. history. So, what makes the 1984 penny special in the world of coin collecting? Well, while millions of these coins were minted and circulated, it's the condition and rarity of certain examples that can drive up their value. Most 1984 pennies you come across today have been through the hands of many people, worn down by time and constant circulation. These coins are often damaged, scratched, or faded from years of use, which means they hold little value beyond their face value. However, as with any coin, the true value lies in the condition of the piece. Pennies that have been carefully stored and remain in pristine, uncirculated condition are far more valuable than those that show signs of heavy use. If you happen to find a 1984 penny that looks as though it's just been pulled from the mint, you may be holding a valuable collector's item, but the 1984 penny story doesn't stop there. What truly sets some of these coins apart from others are mint errors, those rare occurrences when something goes wrong during the coin's production. When a minting error happens, the result is a unique coin that can be worth far more than the standard issue. Some of the most sought-after error coins include those with double strikes, off-center impressions, and die cracks, among others. A double die error, for example, occurs when the coin is struck multiple times, resulting in a doubled or blurred image on the coin. This error can occur on the date, the lettering, or even the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, making the coin incredibly distinctive and highly collectible. A coin with such an error is much rarer and more valuable than a standard penny. Another potential minting error is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned during the minting process, resulting in a portion of the design being cut off. Off-center strike coins are highly desirable because they are unique and don't follow the normal pattern of perfectly struck coins. Collectors love these because they represent an unusual piece of history. Additionally, there can be die cracks, which happen when the die used to strike the coins develops cracks over time. These cracks can leave permanent marks or lines on the coin, creating another rare variation that collectors are eager to add to their collections. If you happen to find a 1984 penny with any of these minting errors, especially the double die or off-center strike, it could be worth far more than you might expect. So, how much are we talking about? The price can vary based on the condition of the coin and the rarity of the mint error. But the value of a high-quality 1984 penny with a rare error can reach astounding heights. A well-preserved 1984 penny in mint condition might fetch a decent price, but if it's a rare error coin, the value could skyrocket. In fact, a 1984 penny with a double die error or off-center strike could be worth as much as $30,000. That's right, $30,000 for a single penny. It may sound unbelievable, but the world of coin collecting is full of surprises. If you're lucky enough to come across a rare mint error on a 1984 penny, you could be holding a treasure worth thousands of dollars. These errors are so rare that when they do appear, collectors are willing to pay top dollar to add them to their collections. So, the next time you find a 1984 penny in your change, don't dismiss it as just another piece of pocket change. Take a closer look. Examine it carefully for any unusual characteristics, such as a double date, blurred lettering, or an off-center strike. If you think you found a rare minting error, it's a good idea to have the coin professionally graded and authenticated. A certified numismatist can give you a more accurate estimate of its value and help you determine whether it's worth selling or holding onto for the future. In conclusion, the 1984 United States 1-cent coin may seem like an ordinary penny, but in the world of coin collectors, it's anything but ordinary. With the potential for minting errors and the possibility of finding a perfectly preserved example, this coin can be worth far more than its face value. If you have a 1984 penny in your collection, it could very well be worth as much as $30,000, or more if you're lucky enough to discover a rare error. Thanks for joining me on this exciting journey into the world of rare coins. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss out on future coin discoveries. And as always, happy hunting, and good luck on your next coin adventure.